When it comes to creating immersive landscapes or compelling artworks, it requires us sometimes to really understand the finer details and the contextualizing features. And this can require us to have a fundamental knowledge of various materials, textures, and just general objects and how to incorporate them into an artwork. Now, there is an endless amount of various objects and structures that you could learn how to draw, but in this particular video, we will be learning how to draw a flag. Now, what's great about learning how to draw a flag is that we are essentially learning how to draw fabric that is blowing in the wind, which is a great drawing exercise to not only enhance our shading and drawing techniques, but the process can be applied to other fabric type structures when you are thinking about how to represent and incorporate these kinds of features within your own artwork. So with that being said, hey guys, my name is Matt. Welcome to another video by artincontext.org, where we explore various art related topics, and in today's tutorial we will be learning how to draw a flag, more specifically the American flag. Now, the way in which we start is by creating a light pencil sketch of the flag. So we want to start with the pole, as this will determine how large the flag will be on the page. You can do this by using your ruler to draw a vertical line. You can also slant your pole to give it a little bit more of an interesting perspective, but otherwise we're going to just start with drawing the pole. From there you can proceed to draw a parallel line next to your vertical line to kind of create the thickness of the pole. But the intention here is to basically first start by establishing the pole, and you can play around with adding unique features to your pole, but we do want to make sure that we set up the pole first, and this is going to help us understand how to establish the actual size of our flag. Now, as we lightly sketch out our flag, you can make some indicative marks with your pencil that would determine where the flag would end. We just want to get a sense of how large the flag will be from the pole to the other side of the page. You can do this by drawing marks that determine the end of the corners of the flag. So once we know how large our flag will be, we can proceed to draw the flag to these edges. We can do this by drawing the top line of the flag in a wavy formation. So we want to do the same for the bottom line of the flag as well, making sure that we draw the exact same wavy formation as that of the top of the flag. So from here we can connect each curve with a vertical line to define the ripples within the flag. So the idea is that as we kind of draw these wavy lines to establish the top edge of the flag, we're going to replicate the exact same wavy line to replicate or indicate the bottom line or the bottom edge of the flag. And simply by connecting these wavy lines with some vertical lines, we will already start to see how this establishes this wavy quality within the flag as if it were blowing in the wind. Now, once we have done that, we're going to proceed to sketching the American flag details. So since we will be creating the American flag drawing, we want to proceed to add the square shape on the top left corner of our flag. So since we have drawn ripples in the flag, this means that the details on the flag will slightly distort naturally due to the fact that the entire fabric of the flag is distorted. As you proceed to draw the square in the flag, you want to make sure that it flows in the same formation as the flag's ripples, or the ripples within the material of the flag. In our American flag drawing, we want to capture the details as correctly as possible, so this means we'll be drawing 50 stars in the square of the flag. The easiest way to do this is by creating 6 horizontal lines in a little square, which will help guide you in terms of drawing and placing the stars in a way that fits inside the square. On the horizontal lines in the square, you can draw these little circles, which will then help you to place the stars. We will also have extra space in between the horizontal lines, which will give you more space to add in extra stars to fill your American flag drawing until you reach 50 stars. As you proceed to draw in the lines that represent the 13 stripes of the American flag, take your time and do not rush. The idea is that you don't have to worry too much about making each stripe the exact same. The ripples in the flag allow us to play around with the distorting nature of the details a little bit. So this actually works in our favor in the sense that we can be a little loose in terms of defining those stripes, because naturally they will be distorted due to the rippled quality or the bending quality in the fabric of our flag. A good suggestion would also be to add the stripes in sections divided by the ripples of the flag. So this means you can go through each ripple of the flag adding in 13 stripes, and this way we don't forget it's not 13 lines, but rather we are creating 13 stripes. That means we have 12 lines present within our flag. So once our 13 stripes are completed, we can begin to shade them in. We do want to shade in the parts that would represent the red, as the red is the darker color between the red and the white. The best way to start is by shading the full stripe at the top of the flag, and naturally this will help to navigate which stripe you should skip as you move from the top to the bottom of the flag. Remember, we want to shade in the first stripe at the very top of the flag, so from there we can move down the flag, skipping one as we shade in every second stripe. But as we proceed, we should see that we have 7 colored in and 6 negative or white stripes. Now once our stripes are completely colored in, we can proceed to draw in our stars. So again, we don't need to worry about each star looking perfectly the same. The distortions in the flag allow us to have a little bit of distortions in the details of the flag as well, and this naturally includes the stars. You should make sure though you keep your pencils sharp when drawing the stars, as the shapes are quite intricate and fine in detail, so the stars obviously are naturally quite small, so you do just want to make sure that your pencils are sharp, and this way we can really get a really fine line work within the formation of our stars. So you want to make sure you're just going slowly, working your way through each row of stars, using the pencil horizontal lines to also guide you in your drawing process. So just take your time with this early pencil stage, and once we have done, we can then move on to actually shading around the stars with our pen. So we should be left with a light sketch of the American flag at this point, which we can now begin to color using our pens. Now using ballpoint pen is really good because ballpoint pen works really similar to that of pencil in the sense that the ink comes out quite sparingly, so it requires us to pay attention to the pressure we apply to our pen and gives us a lot of agency over our mark making process. So working with a pen is a great way to provide contrast to the drawing and ultimately enhance these details. We want to start by outlining the stars with our ballpoint pens. By doing this, we thicken the outline of the stars, thus making it easier for us to color around them. Coloring in the stars should take some time, as coloring around little details like stars can easily be messed up. So as you shade the flag around the stars, you want to pay attention to the pressure you apply to the pen, making sure areas are lighter in tonal value. So the idea with a really dark feature and representing it through a monochromatic color scheme is that you are basically trying to darken the areas where a color would necessarily be darkest. So in the case of our American flag, that area is quite dark, and basically we're trying to darken it with some pen shading, and then leaving some moments lighter around our stars, but we can also leave our stars negative and making sure we are strategically coloring or shading around them. Now at this point, we do want to just make sure that we are simply taking our time. However, we do want most of the square to be dark, allowing the vivid contrast to represent the blue quality within the flag. Again, the idea is to make sure that the square is pretty dark, or the darkest within our flag drawing in terms of incorporating shading, but we can have these little lighter moments where we create these little seamless transitions between highlights and darker areas, just to suggest a subtle highlight or quality of light reflecting off of the surface of the flag within that specific feature. We can also proceed to add in some shading to the pole, where we add a shadow that is more prominent on one side running down the pole. Again, by doing this, we give the pole a shadow effect, making the pole seem a little bit more three-dimensional. So the idea is to really consider the elements within your flag drawing, from the pole and the structure of the pole and its surface area to that of this more material-like, fabric-like structure, and how light interacts with that particular structure. But the idea at this point is to really make sure that we are focusing on the actual square around the stars. So as you shade in the square and around the stars, try to make some areas slightly lighter. We do this by softening the pressure that we apply to the pen, so this will result in a softer and lighter mark. And naturally, working with a cross-hatching method is also a great way to kind of create these seamless gradients between darker and lighter moments, especially when using something like a ballpoint pen. Now, as you proceed to shade in the flag with your pen, make sure that you lighten the tonal values as you start to kind of represent the subtle protrusions within the material of the flag. So by doing this, we create a darker shade that's present in the inner indentation of the ripple, and this quality is especially important in the more prominent ripples within the flag. So again, the idea is we really want to think about the actual structural nature and texture of the flag itself. So wherever we have these rippling qualities, as as they kind of curve inward, there'd be more shadows, obviously, because they are less exposed to a light source. But as those ripples then protrude and kind of wave and cause this arcing quality in the material that kind of protrudes outward, those areas will inevitably be more exposed to a light source, so they tend to be slightly lighter in terms of tonal value. So allow yourself to play around with the different tonal values in the flag, making it lighter in the protrusions and darker in the indentation qualities within the ripples. You do want to just make sure that you take your time with the square specifically, and the stars, and really making sure that you kind of shade and color around those stars, making sure that you leave the stars white or negative. Now once we have successfully completed the section around the stars, we can move on to shading in the stripes and just focusing on the actual ripples and the larger ripples within the flag that kind of shift into the stripes. Again, the process of shading is the same. However, this time we do want to add shadows on the inner sections of each ripple in the flag. So we do this section by section, whereby we shade one section of each ripple of the flag to give it more dimension and move our way through to the end of the flag until we have done this process for each ripple within the flag. Now, as we shade in the stripe sections, section by section, we are aiming to do two things. Firstly, we want to shade in the correct stripes, but secondly, we want to add shading along the side of each ripple, resulting in a shadow that is cast by the ripples themselves as they protrude. So naturally, we want to think about representing the color of the flag through our monochromatic medium, but then we also want to think about shadow and light and how to represent those qualities through our monochromatic medium or our pen shading process. As you move on to the next section of the flag, start by adding shading along the side of the ripples. So each ripple should have shading on the side to have an accurate effect of light source coming from one direction. So the idea is to keep all the shading consistently to one side of each ripple, and that way we kind of have this more accurate representation of a light source being present from one side. So once you have added shading along with the ripple, you can then proceed to shade in the stripes of the flag. Remember, the stripes are slightly lighter than that of the square, so to create a tonal difference in the flag, you can create a lighter shading quality to the ripples in comparison to that of the darker shaded quality in the square that is around the stars. But the idea here is to take your time when shading each stripe of the flag, making sure that you use the cross-hatching method to create an even tonal value in the stripes. As you carry on creating your flag drawing, we want to make sure that each stripe is the same in tone, going from dark to light as they move out from the ripple. So the idea is also that as you add shading to the indented areas of these ripples, or the quality of the ripple that kind of goes in towards the flag and is less exposed to a light source, we want to create a gradient that goes from dark and slowly shifts to a lighter tonal value as it comes to a surface area that is again more exposed to a light source. This process you will carry on working through the American flag drawing section by section, divided by each ripple in the flag. So you can add smaller ripples in the flag as you go through the shading process by adding smaller lines of shading in various directions. This creates little like moments of ripples or less prominent ripples, and gives the flag a little bit more of a nuanced quality in terms of these more subtle protrusions and indentations within the material of the flag. However, remember that ripples in the flag are going to cast shadows on the flag. This means that if we have various sections in the flag divided by ripples, on each side of those ripples should be a shadow. This means that there is a light source coming from one direction, allowing the ripples to cast shadows and look more three-dimensional. So the idea is to really keep consistency in terms of which direction the light source is coming from, and inevitably how that is affecting shadow formations due to the ripples within the material and how they cast shadows on the material themselves. We can simply carry on this shading process, taking our time as we work through the entire flag. Again, we can add some subtle small ripples and shadows in the flag as we go, but remember to take your time adding in shading, slowly building up those tonal values until you get to a darkness or a tonal value that you are satisfied with. But as you come to the end of the flag drawing, remember that it will be most exposed to light source where the areas are protruding in your ripples, so that's something important to remember. But otherwise, take your time with the flag drawing process, perhaps look at some reference images as well to get an idea of how light interacts with a similar structure. But otherwise, guys, there you have it, how to draw a flag, more specifically specifically the American flag. Some key things to remember is that material is very movable, bendable, malleable in the sense that it can kind of warp and change directions, especially when it is kind of exposed to wind and blowing in the wind. And naturally, this is going to affect the structure and form of the material, which will cause a variety of ripples and indentations that inevitably will cause shadow formations on the structure itself. From there, it's a matter of understanding a direction of a light source. So if the light source is coming from one direction, we want to make sure that all our shadow formations are represented consistently on one side in each ripple or protrusion within our flag or material structure. But otherwise, from there, it's a matter of building up those tonal values and thinking about the actual flag that you are drawing. So in this case, we drew an American flag, but you can see that we are representing different colors through different tonal values. So for the blue around the stars, it's quite dark. For the red, it's a little less dark. And then obviously for the white stripes, we leave negative space. But otherwise, guys, if you are interested in similar or related topics in terms of learning how to draw structures, materials, and just simple objects to be incorporated into your artwork, please let us know in the comment section below. If you did like this video, please drop a like. Please do subscribe. That helps us to grow the channel, which ultimately enables us to make more art related content for you guys. But thanks again for tuning in. That is it from me today. I'll see you next time. Until then, cheers.